What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. And yeah, we have another legend to talk about. Surprise, surprise. We've got Kizuna coming up relatively shortly. I believe that this Sabo and Bonnie character is going to be dropping on the 19th of April. I believe that might be Japan time, so it might be tomorrow. So I think news time today will probably get information and the actual announcement in-game about this sugo-fest. And I think it's around the 19th on Japan time, which would be 18th on global side of the things, for this sugo-fest to go live. The actual Kizuna event won't be until a couple days after that, so don't stress. It's not like we're having Kizuna tomorrow or anything like that. But yeah, we've got another event coming out. We have another legend to come alongside it, and this is a little bit of a left field choice. I mean, considering what we're coming off of, considering like the whole month has been dedicated to this Enemies of Zoro event, and we're going to be pivoting now to the Reverie, which is kind of crazy actually. So it's interesting that we've got Sabo and Bonnie here, obviously focusing on the Reverie. We also have a Kizuna rare recruit in what's his name, Cobra. Cobra is going to be the Kizuna rare recruit, and then we also have the information for the super evolution of Vivi and Rebecca. Spoilers, this character is dog shit, so let's get into it. Let's actually break down what is going on here. So we have Sabo and Bonnie. Sabo is Sai, Bonnie is Dex, both are cerebral fighters. Sabo's captain ability gives -1 turn of cooldown at the start of the quest and -1 to switch effect gauge at the start of the quest. Fine. Sai cerebral fighter characters, 1.2 HP, 4.75 attack, 5.25 times attack when you're above 80% HP, makes tandem and recovery matching. If the crew uses a special to give you a chain addition, except multiplicative, so chain addition, or a chain locking effect, extend the duration by 1. I really don't like captain abilities that do this. They do this a lot. So they'll do this, and I haven't memorized exactly what the special does, but I would be betting that it's a 2-turn buff, right? And then you use them as a captain, it becomes a 3-turn. That's my guess. I don't actually know though, but if that's the case, I hate it. Just remove this and make it a 3-turn buff. It just makes it so much better. Either way, tapping on this character with a recovery or a similar slot will apply increased damage taken status to all enemies by 1.5 times, ignoring immunity to status effects. Visible effect will be 2 turns and become 1 turn during the next action. Interesting. So let's say you perform this, and during your taps you inflict this to the enemy, and it actually becomes 2 turns. The enemy performs their action, and if the enemy survives or like they revive or anything like that, if they still have it for the next following turn, this could actually be quite good. But in most cases, it's not going to really matter too much because you obviously want it when you actually start doing damage. So it's interesting, but also at the same time, if this is like structured in this way, if you have a Rush Sugo special that requires you to tap first, it means that Rush Sugo special won't actually get the benefits of an increased damage taken effect, because you would want to attack with this character first to ensuring that you're inflicting the enemy with that debuff to get a 50% bonus damage on top of everything that you're doing. So while this is a good effect, I feel like there could be issues with it as well. There's no real utility here in the captain effect either, which is concerning. But at the end of the day, you could probably get away with using this guy as a captain and then a friend captain of something else, or vice versa. So that probably works okay. Just it's not an exciting ability, I'll say. It's nothing game breaking, because we've seen characters that do similar abilities before. It's nothing crazy. Moving on to Bonnie's captain ability now. So you get the same thing with the cooldown, Dex Cerebral Fighter. So she doesn't boost Psi units. 1.2, 5 times attack. Sabo only at 4.75. Okay, but Bonnie doesn't actually get any higher than the 5 times base, whereas Sabo is 4.75 up to 5.25. So Bonnie will also make tandem recovery matching. If you use a special to apply a chain addition or a chain lock, you extend it. Tapping with recovery or similar inflicts increased damage taken. The exact same captain ability, just the multipliers are slightly different. Okay, in their combined captain ability, same thing. Side Dex Cerebral Fighter, 1.2 HP, 5.25 times attack, 6 times when you're 70% HP or above. Same as matching slots. If you do chain addition or a chain lock, you extend it by 1 turn. And then the same thing, if you tap with the recovery or similar, it's now going to be a 1.75 times increased damage taken going through immunity. So what I will say is it's not like a crazy captain ability. I'm not overly wowed by this one. It's just okay. It's fine. let's move on from this. The captain ability isn't wowing me by any stretch. Let's see what else we have here. Switch effect. Completely removes character slot bind and changes adjacent slots into tandem. It's fine. I mean, generating adjacent slots into tandem is quite good. We know how good that is with Zoro and Sanji, being able to essentially trigger a super tandem every single turn. Of course, this character doesn't provide you with an attack and an orb boost on top of it, but it's still a pretty usable switch ability. And then 8 switches. I mean, obviously, if you use them as a captain, this can reduce, but 8 switches is quite a lot. Completely removes their own slot bind, changes this character's own slot into recovery, changes adjacent slots including block into tandem, applies a weakened status, which is a 1.5 times increased damage taken, and then a further 1.2 if they have increased damage taken to all enemies for 1 turn, and then they fuse for 3 turns. Oh, it's one of these units. So the fact that it's 8 switches, and you need to... I'm assuming that their special ability will have a different ability or a buffed ability if you use it in their dual form, meaning that you would have to get the super switch to get the most out of it. Already don't like that too much. And the increased damage taken, or should I say the weakness debuff that they apply, does not go through full immunity, whereas their captain ability, increased damage taken, does go through full immunity. So I think that there's a little bit of a disconnect between the design philosophy here, between the switch and the captain ability. And the thing is even if this did go through full immunity, I don't think it's that crazy, because like in their captain ability, a 1.75 times increased damage taken, like that's not the craziest number we've seen from an increased damage taken, so that's not like super overpowered. And being able to apply a weakness debuff on top of it, so if we just pull up the calc real quick, it's a 1.5 times by 1.2 if you have increased damage taken, and if we take their increased damage taken into account, it equates to a 3.15, and you know what's crazy? Is you can have the New Year's Luffy that came out, the New Year's Gear 5 Luffy, his special literally inflicts 3 times increased damage taken, so the New Year's Luffy special is pretty much already better than this captain and switch effect combination together, right? And on top of that, you can then apply weakness on top of Luffy's increased damage taken, so yeah, like, I just don't see how, like, this is not like a super broken ability. This should have definitely just gone through immunity, because why not? Like, I just don't get it. And like the utility from the switches is like kind of whatever. I like the fact that they change adjacent slots, including block into tandem this time, but I'm not superly wowed by this either. Honestly, I wouldn't say it's disappointing, but I was definitely expecting more. Okay, let's move on to their special. Okay, so it looks like maybe it doesn't matter. Okay, maybe they don't fuse. Okay, let's see. Anyways, the special is 17 turns. Wow, that's actually a lot. 17 turn special. Reduces despair duration by 10, which is quite good. Reduces damage taken by 95% for 1 turn. That is actually very good. Using this potentially with like Oiran Yamato to get the % damage reduction based attack boost. This and Oiran Yamato together sounds like a pretty good combo. If the captain is cerebral or fighter class, sets the chain multiplier minimum value to 3.5 and a max of 35 for 1 turn. That's a very good chain boundary, and allows this effect to be further increased 2 times. Okay, that's pretty good. You know, this could potentially go up to like a 4.5 chain boundary or something like that. It'd be pretty crazy. Okay, so despair, damage reduction, chain boundary. If you have a Psi or a Dex captain, boosts the chain multiplier by 1.7 for 1 turn. Okay, so the captain ability would make it 2 turns, or if you have double captain, it's 3 turns. And then after that, becomes Bonnie and Sabo for 3 turns. And applies partial immunity to selected character. Can select up to 1 character for 3 turns. This effect does not activate attack boost and slot effect from passing turns. Okay, the way that this is worded leads me to believe that this is essentially what Toki does. And if that is the case, that's wild. This definitely to me it's like it's literally Toki. I feel like that's what it is supposed to be, especially because of what they have in the brackets here. Like the fact that they mention it does not activate attack and slot effect boost when you pass the turns, meaning that it's probably the same visual animations as what Toki does, where you click on a character after you launch the special, and then it applies like a smoke shrouded effect on your character that you select, and essentially for those 3 turns, the character cannot be inflicted with any debuff. Pretty much, it avoids everything. So, like, you can't be blinded, despair. I'm pretty sure action silence is avoided as well. Blown away. You can't be, you know, special binded. You can't be inflicted with, you know, fear reduction. You can't be inflicted with slot bind. Like, I'm pretty sure you can avoid slot bind with it. You can avoid basically everything with it. So, okay, so let's break this down once again. You have good despair removal, great damage reduction, great chain boundary, pretty good chain boosting effect, albeit only really, these chain buffs are only for 1 turn. And then you also have the added effect of applying partial immunity for 3 turns on one singular character. Meaning, if you do run double Sabo Bonney, you can select 2 characters to be completely void of every debuff in the game. It's pretty cool. I actually do not mind this special ability at all. But it's the fact that when you partner in... Okay, so you gotta remember, using this as a sub, you'll have access to this switch effect in Super Switch. I guess this character's not bad. You know, you got good utility, damage reduction, and chain-related stuff. It's alright. Let's continue on and see what we got here. They have a super class. Hopefully you can use it as a crewmate. You need to become Sabo and Bonnie with their super switch. And 3 of the following characters... Oh man, that could be a little rough. Except as a support character, double characters count as 1. You can be launched as a crewmate. Okay, that is positive. So we have Ivankov, Bello, Betty, Morley, Karasu, Lindbergh, Hack, Inazuma, Koala, Bartholomew Kuma, Vegapunk. It says Stella, so I assume it only means the main Vegapunk. Cobra, Luffy, and Ace. This is pretty tough. This is pretty tough. I mean, Luffy's not a problem. Then again, he's Cerebral Fighter focus, so you gotta run a Fighter Luffy. Ace could be a little bit of a challenge, but you do have the New Year's Ace that came out, who I believe is a fighter as well, so that could potentially work. My assumption is that we're probably going to get a new Kuma Legend soon that's going to be Cerebral, which is going to work with this guy. That would make the most sense. I would also love to see Legend Dragon come in at some point, but Legend Dragon, like Dragon is not listed here. So if they ever bring Dragon into the game, they would have to go back to basically every super type, super class that has all of these Revolutionary Army characters and add Dragon to the list, which they've done it in the past. So I hope that they do that. So we'll see what happens, but okay. So this is a lot of hoops you have to jump through in order to get this to work. What do you get out of it? Allows crews additive chain multiplier boost, except multiplicative buffs, to be further increased 2 times, and further increases your attack boost by 1.2. I mean, that's not very good. The fact that this character allows your chain additions to be buffed multiple times, their special ability also gives you a very good chain boost, but then they don't, like, this should have just been, and then further increase your chain additions by 1.2. I mean, that would have been pretty crazy, but that's what they should have done. Buffing attack is kind of a weird one. Why do they buff attack? They don't do any attack buffs at all. That's a really weird effect. I mean, I assume that the Cobra will probably do an attack boost. That would be my assumption. We'll see. But the superclass is not... Again, as I said, because all of the hoops you have to jump through, you have to become Bonnie and Sabo through the super switch. You need to have 3 of the listed characters, and then you can do it. Pretty rough. Okay. Sailor ability, recovery, and tandem are matching for Fighter Cerebral. You get base stats. Potential ability of pinch healing. Potential ability of hunger. And what do they have? Let me see. They have... Oh, was it Final Tap? Final Tap. Boost characters base attack by 1,000. The rest of this better be good. Boost Cerebral and Fighter characters advantageous class effect by 1.75 times. Okay, like, let's just take the scenario of, hypothetically, there is an advantageous class effect on the field where you can abuse Fighter or Cerebral advantageous class effect. Why would you use this character over the New Year's Sabo that came out? I feel like New Year's Sabo is just better, right? He has better utility. I guess the only thing that New Year's Sabo, well, this character has over New Year's Sabo is that the special ability and all of the effects that are activating are easily achievable. You just need Cerebral Fighter Captain for the chain boundary, and then you need a Sio Dex Captain for the chain addition. Whereas Sabo, in order for him to get his abilities, you need to have, like, is it tap timing bonus damage or end of turn healing or something like that? So Sabo is a little bit more, the New Year's one is very difficult to get all of his abilities to activate. This one is much easier. However, the New Year's Sabo can fully abuse advantageous class effect for the whole team. This only works for the final tap. And this is a Kizuna legend, which is even harder to max their final tap. And the fact that when we saw, who was the character that came out recently with a terrible final tap? It was Tashigi, right? when you have a look at Tashigi's like level 1, level 2, level 3 of her final tap, literally all of her final taps are the base attack one, and then only the last one is when she gets the additional effect. I wouldn't be shocked if Sabo's level 1 to 4 is just base attack, and then level 5 is when you get this ability to activate. I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case. Either way, this final tap is terrible. Bandai do not know how to make final tap Sugo units work. These characters are garbage. I do not know what they're thinking. These characters are just never going to see play. No one wants to pull for dupes of characters if the ability that they get from it doesn't even matter. This is garbage. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Let's move on. Hopefully their Rumble's good. 27 CT. Targets enemies in a large horizontal range for attack down level 7, speed down level 7, and if 8 or more cerebral or fighters are on the team, 2 enemies with high CT get a 30% delay. That's very good. Target 1 high attack teammate for a 100% chance of haste. Okay. Is this good? 27 CT is a bit rough. What is his Rumble ability? Free Spirit and Shooter enemies attack down level 8, speed down level 8. If 8 or more cerebral fighters are on the team, Free Spirit class defense down level 8, Shooter enemy special CT down level 5. Okay, I really hate the Shooter hate because shooters have been bad for a long time. And now they want to bring out a character that's kind of like anti-shooter. Not a big fan of that. Free Spirit debuffs, I'm all for because Free Spirit is toxic. And then you got like the Rumble special. So he's a debuff. He's a debuff of focused unit. I like this. This is quite good. He guarantees to target 2 characters with high special CT. The only real issue is getting his special to launch before the enemies are able to fully abuse their specials and then you just die. So I don't know how good this is. You really have to abuse this with a team that has high speed and high special CT in order to really, kick this into high gear. So at face value, I'm not the biggest fan of this ability, but it depends. People are probably going to find really cool ways to abuse this, but we'll see, right? We'll see. Evades action bind, and then damage reduction against Shooter and Free Spirit. So overall, I don't think this character is all that, especially because we're so close to the 11th anniversary. I just don't feel like it's a valid decision to pull on this banner. I think you're going to be in a much better position if you hold your gems, just ignore this sugo-fest altogether, and you'll be good to go. Before we wrap this up, let's actually talk about Cobra. Now, I don't think we're going to fit Vivi and Rebecca, so I might make a separate video for Vivi and Rebecca, because otherwise we'll be here for 5 years. So, Cobra here, no one cares about his captain. Special ability, he reduces special bind and paralysis by 6, that's very good. If your captain is cerebral and he has a recovery, if your captain is cerebral and has a recovery slot, so your captain has to have a recovery slot, which you can get via this super switch. So, cerebral captain, and your captain has to have a recovery slot when you launch the special, boost the color affinity of Cerebral Fighter by 2.25 for 3 turns, and boost the attack of the next final tap performed by Cerebral Fighter by 30%. And then this is all mumbo jumbo. If the captain is Cerebral class and has a Strength, Dex, Quick, Psi, Int, Tandem, or Rainbow slot, doubles the color affinity of Cerebral Fighter for 1 turn. Okay, so you get color affinity no matter what. It's just that if it's a recovery one, you get slightly higher color affinity, and it lasts for 3 turns instead of 1. Okay, I really do not care about the color affinity stuff, but the special bind and paralysis removal is pretty good. It removes 6 turns of special bind. You get an extra 500 heal at the end of the turn. He has hunger, pinch healing, support on Vivi once per quest. If supported character use a special to give color affinity boost, further buffed by 0.3. You know what, stuff it. Let's just make this a really long video. Let's go through Vivi and Rebecca as well. But Cobra, I mean, he's a Kizuna rare recruit. You just don't need him. He's going to help, obviously, but it's not the end-all, be-all. Let's be real. Let's move on, though. The disappointment of Vivi and Rebecca 6+, man. Like, we really wanted to see some cool stuff here. And someone made a good point where, like, a lot of people expect 6+s to just be good, but it's more of, like, they're the oddity at this point. At this point, you need to expect that super evolutions are always bad, and whenever we get a good super evolution, that's when you get excited. It's just Bandai have made it to a point now where super evolutions just kind of don't even matter, because every time they come out with one, it's either worse than the base unit, or it's barely an upgrade. Rarely we will get a 6+ that actually makes an impact on people's, I guess, ideologies of, like, meta-defining units. The last meta-defining 6+ in my opinion was V3 Rayleigh. That unit just was god tier. I mean, he still is amazing. He's so good. Such a crazy upgrade from the original unit. And we really haven't had a 6+ of that level of an upgrade for a very long time. So, let's get into Vivi and Rebecca. What they have done, though, in the captain abilities is that they've kind of switched the way that the character worked. Beforehand, the way that it worked is that they would have a really low attack boost, and then the color affinity in their captain was the high point. What they've done now is that they've made the attack boost the larger number, and they've brought the color affinity down. Obviously, the math is still going to work out, but this is a better way to go about it because it means in the circumstances where you don't have type advantageous effects, you're still going to have at least some kind of damage output, whereas beforehand, even if you were attacking neutrally, you basically had no damage. Like, imagine if this was flipped, where you only had 1.5 times attack, and then if you had type advantageous effects, then you would get a 3.25 time multiplier on top. So switching those around makes a lot of sense. Either way, it's still bad. Doesn't do a lot of damage. So hypothetically, if you had Vivi as your captain, you get 3.25 times attack. If you attack against a character that you have an advantage against, so strength versus a dex enemy, for example, you get a further 1.5 times damage on top of it. So yeah, nearly a 5 times boost obviously is like cool, but like most of the time you're going to be attacking neutrally, which is bad. So multipliers don't really matter, they're just really weak. 1.2 HP, Psi and Tandem slots are going to be matching, and 20% damage reduction. I mean, remember that this is just the base form of the unit. There is going to be the level limit break forms of the unit, but if you just have the base unit with no investments, this is what you're getting. Pretty much the same thing here with Rebecca in their combined form. Again, pretty much the same thing, just with higher numbers. Just garbage captain ability. Now, what I will say is that they have updated the unit in giving them a super switch, which does make sense. We did kind of mention this in my prediction video for Vivi and Rebecca. So the switch ability of the unit will change. It's essentially unchanged. It doesn't really do much different. It gives you strength dex slots are switched into matching for Striker and Cerebral. The healing that they provide at the end of the turn, to my knowledge, has been upgraded. I believe this was was it 1500 before? So it's doubled it to 3000, and then they get a 2.5 chain lock. And then 8 switches for their super switch, which is very excessive. You're not going to see this too often, but the ability will change block and type slots of Striker Cerebral into matching, a 10,000 heal at the end of the turn, and you get a 2.75 chain boundary from their switch. So that is a massive upgrade. I did kind of mention this as well, that like it would make sense for a super switch to get a boundary instead of a lock, and that's essentially what they've done. They haven't really touched too much about it, and like, to be honest, the switch effect was one of the shining lights of this unit to begin with, so they didn't really need to change too much. And I think that what they've done with the switch, I'm completely okay with. I don't have any qualms with this at all. This is a good upgrade. Moving on to their special, remember, this is the base form of the special, not the level limit break, so this will be slightly better as we get deeper on into the video. So the special, when you super evo, same thing as before, removes blue shield and rainbow shield completely, and then also boosts color affinity of Cerebral Striker by 2.75 for 3 turns, up to 2 type effect increasing effects can be applied, and then they fuse for 3 turns. It's essentially the same special, but the color affinity lasts for 3 turns, and it's a slightly higher buff. That's essentially all it is. So that's extremely disappointing to see there. Sailor abilities don't matter, potential abilities are the same. The rumble stuff, we'll talk about the rumble stuff once we get a bit deeper to the other stuff. So here, like level limit break captain ability here, for their rumble ability. Striker Cerebral gets 6 health, 6 speed, and then when remaining time is 70 seconds or less, your Striker and Cerebral class teammates get 8 attack and 5 defense. So I'm not the biggest fan of this because you kind of want them to almost be bench units, because the first 30 seconds you don't get anything. I just don't know why this needs to exist. Like, let's be real here. Just remove this and this character's fine in terms of rumble ability. So in terms of buffed captain ability, let's see what they've actually done. So you get -1 turn of cooldown and -1 to switch effect. Makes sense considering they got a very high switch gauge. But everything else is pretty much the same. 3.25 times attack, 1.5 color affinity, 1.2 HP, side tandem matching, nothing really too noteworthy. Same sort of thing for Rebecca. And in their combined captain ability, again, nothing really too crazy. 3.25 attack, 1.8 color affinity, 1.2 HP, side in tandem recovery matching, 20% damage reduction. they just don't do anything. They just don't do anything as a captain, so don't ever use them as a captain because you're just literally like neutering yourself. Special in Rumble with the investments, 24 CT, all enemies get level 5 defense, target striker cerebral teammates for 7 attack and speed, and then when time remaining is 70 seconds or less, targets, not including self, 1 high attack teammate for a 30% reduction. It just doesn't do enough. I mean, defense is cool, defense down on the enemies are cool, and then you get high attack and speed, and then you get a 30% reduction to 1 unit. I mean, it just really should have done a lot more than what it does. Alright, so now we have the special. So with maximum investments, this is what you should be expecting with Vivi and Rebecca. Completely removes all enemies defense up and rainbow shield completely. So this is just the wording in the game, but this is just like accept damage threshold. If the crew has a color, if the crew has a type effect nullification when the special is launched. So we've seen in most recent super bosses, when you enter the final stage, the enemy turns off your color affinity boost, meaning everyone hits for neutral damage. So what it says is if you launch the special and you have no color affinity, it will give you a Cerebral and Striker tap timing chain growth rate increase by 0.6. This is the first character in the game that does anything in regards to type effect nullification, and it's because this character is focused around color affinity, if you can't get color affinity, it does give you a different buff, which I guess is cool. The problem is that in the content where this effect is given to you is extremely redundant because you're never going to use Vivi and Rebecca for this type of content. You're just not. Okay, so you get tap timing chain growth up to 0.6, and that lasts for 3 turns. And then it also says boost the color affinity of Cerebral and Striker by 3x for 3 turns otherwise. Up to 2 type increasing effects can be occurred. So this character essentially is 3 times color affinity for 3 turns for Striker Cerebral. It can be buffed twice. If you are inflicted with type effect nullification, you get tap time and chain growth rate instead. It just doesn't have much of a buff. This character is just not that much of an upgrade. It's just so disappointing. We mentioned it before, 6+ are just extremely disappointing now, and this is yet again another disappointing 6+. So we'll have to wait another month until we get, into the anniversary. Hopefully they give us a really cool super evolution there. Likely they're going to paywall one of them because that's what they did last year and that's what they've been doing throughout the entire year. So we'll have to wait and see what they have in mind. Anyways, that is going to wrap it up for me. Long-winded video. There was lots to talk about, lots to complain about, but what I will say is hold strong for the 11th anniversary. That's what you should be doing. Anyways, that is going to wrap it up for me. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. On that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.